Texas versus Texas A&M. The Longhorns need a win to stay alive if they have any chance of getting themselves into the playoffs. A&M is one game away for the first time going to the SEC championship game and having an undefeated regular SEC season. Joe, when you preview Texas versus Texas A&M, how do you see it playing out?
Blake, I think, by the way, A&M is a 2.5-point favorite on FanDuel for anyone who wants to bet on this game. Blake, I'm very intrigued by, and there's a lot of this happening this weekend, by the way, a lot of firsts in terms of difficult matchups for some of these teams. This is arguably the best defense that Texas A&M has faced this entire year. We're looking at a Texas defense that is 37 team sacks. Their secondary has been inconsistent, which we're going to talk about as a key factor here, but their run defense is tremendous. Are we going to see A&M power through against this really, really stout front seven that Texas brings to the table? Because the last time that they faced a really good front seven, when they played Missouri, they blasted through them. Yeah. They ran around them, threw them, passed them over them. They dominated a really, really good Missouri defense. And on the flip side of this, do we see Texas A&M's pass rush? Do we see them start to get cooking and completely dominate a Texas offensive line that's been up and down? Do we see Cassius Howell pop off and get after Arch Manning? Like, I think that there is a big challenge for both of these teams and ultimately a massive edge for Texas A&M, because I feel like generally a lot of the weaknesses that Texas brings to the table, they're not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Texas A&M strengths.
You know, you started the show talking about upset alerts.
Oh, no. Don't say this.
You came into the show and saying which team is going to get clipped in rivalry week. And I've been thinking to myself all day, what team this week in rivalry weekend is going to get clipped? Well, it ain't going to be the Aggies, but I led you on there. Listen, the biggest thing for me when I think about Texas versus Texas A&M, what has been A&M's biggest weakness all year? Now, against Missouri, I guess you could say we stopped Missouri's run game, but you didn't have Bo Prabula. That offense has really not been great as of late. I know you kind of contained Ahmad Hardy for whatever that's worth. You're coming off a couple of weeks ago, the South Carolina.
I know they didn't. Ahmad Hardy had a great game.
True, but outside of the yards, I mean, they didn't give up a lot of points. Right. In the second half, I think they had 45 total yards, did Missouri. Like, they got absolutely abused in the second half. Yeah. So I get fair. But Texas can't run the ball, nor have they even tried. So the biggest weakness for A&M has been run defense when you're allowing teams like even LSU to get some runs on you. That's why they let it have. Texas doesn't run the ball. But I bring this up. We talk about rivalry week. When was the best game against the best defense? Even though John Mateer was coming back, they were able to line it up and run it right at Oklahoma and punch them right in the mouth. And I wonder, can you conjure enough strength for one more week to get yourself over the hump here at night, or maybe not at night, I think it's at night, at home, regardless of what time it is, at home, when your season is on the line. Your season's on the line. Joe, if they win, I think they can get in. I do. I think that you could make the argument that they deserve to be in. If they beat A&M, I think you can find a situation where you can talk about them getting in. Let's not get there right now. But your season is on the line. And the only way that you have a chance here, the only way, Wisner, Baxter, I don't give two Rudy Poos who it is. You got to find a way to run the football. I love Steve Sarkisian. I really do. I think he's a great play caller. But, Joe, every time that they've gotten into big games, whether it be Georgia, whether it be Florida, regardless of the teams that you've lost to in the last couple of years, Ohio State, what have you all had in common in those losses? You just couldn't run the ball. By the way, you've played Georgia 3 times. You don't have over 100 rushing yards in 3 games combined. You want to know why you beat Oklahoma? Because, yes, you can say the John Mateer stuff all you want. It wasn't like Texas was lighting it up offensively, but they lined it up and ran it right at you and punched you in the mouth. Bottom line here for me, Joe, is this. If they have any chance of slowing down Marcel Reed, Concepcion, and Craver, you got to keep them on the sidelines. And then you got to force them to make mistakes. You got to play keep away. If Texas cannot run the ball moderately effectively, if you're not over 4 yards or at 4 yards to carry, you're losing. If you don't have, I'm going to be conservative on this. If you don't have 17 rushing attempts by your backs, you're going to lose. You got to win the time of possession, and you got to run the football. And here's another truth. Everybody has pointed the finger at Arch Manning all year because he's Arch Manning. Well, you didn't say stuff about Marcel Reed when he had struggles because they were able to line up and run the football. Texas has got to try to find a way to take on the weakness of A&M and hit it right at its nose. Go right after it if you can. It's the only way I see this one playing out and them getting a win, barring Marcel Reed doesn't continue to turn the ball over.
I agree with your point that you made earlier that if Texas wins this game, they will have a legitimate argument to be made to get into the college football playoff. I don't think enough people realize that there is a strong case for that to happen because they would have one of the best wins on the season. They would need to be respected. The problem is, though, Blake, I don't think it comes to fruition. I do not think that Texas is equipped to beat Texas A&M one bit. You have, as we're talking about here, you have a non-existent run game, 93rd in the country in EPA per rush, going up against a really inconsistent run defense that gives a lot of big plays up to their opponents.
And they're 110th, by the way, in just total rush yards per game.
Yeah. 75th in EPA per rush allowed for this Texas A&M defense. We've seen it multiple times. When they faced off against good running backs, they've given up big splash plays. It is their one Achilles heel with so many other strengths on this team. Texas doesn't have. They don't have the run game. And on top of this, you have this weird stubbornness, despite having Steve Sarkisian saying in the past that he feels it's important to have 1,000-yard rushers. Their leading rusher at the current moment is Trey Wisner, who's got 442 yards because they have avoided running the ball. They have abandoned running the ball so many times over. A lot of their issues with running the ball has a lot to do with the fact that their offensive line is quite mediocre. We have talked about this numerous times. This season, they've allowed 21 sacks, and I think we saw when they went up against a team with a defensive pulse and an aggressive defensive coordinator, they folded. Arch got completely bottled up, thrown into a locker because nobody protected or helped him. They got pushed around every single pass play and every single run play. So we've got a situation here where Cassius Howell and Deion Hayes are about to eat. They're about to go after Arch in this game. Blake, I think that, as you said, the only way that Texas gets in this game and keeps it close is if they slow down time of possession, they run the rock, and they're able to pick up some big plays finally. But I don't see it happening. The last time that we thought that they had an advantage over a team in a specific area was when they were going into the Georgia game, and it looked like they had an advantage going up against that non-existent pass rush. Lo and behold, that was a get-right moment for Georgia, and maybe this is a get-right moment a bit here for Texas A&M.
You talked about Cassius Howell and them feasting. Better hope that they're full from Thanksgiving. Better hope they're slow. Better put some laxatives in their cornbread dressings. All I know. Listen, I think that A&M has not been given the benefit of the doubt in a lot of situations. You know, look, the thing about A&M playing the back half of the SEC, having to come back against South Carolina, I get all that, but they've never been here before. They've never been here before. And listen, if you're A&M and you're Mike Elko, this is more than going to the SEC championship. This is more than going to a situation, Joe, where you're ultimately for sure, and they already are, making a playoff. This is stamping yourself that you're a member of truly a member of the SEC. Because you go to the SEC championship game, you dignify yourself as one of the elite, I say elite teams, but one of the bigger bloods in the SEC. Everything is on the line for you this weekend, and you can go take the soul from Texas. Go take their soul, a team that, quite honestly, I know the score wasn't lopsided last year, wasn't a high-scoring game, kind of a boring game last year. But, Joe, they ran the ball all over you. They took your soul. They snatched your soul like it was Mortal Kombat. Get over here. I mean, you got a chance to go and put yourself in a status that you've never been at before. Marcel Reed has got to stop turning the ball over. Bottom line. Now, A&M has had a lot of success. They're very physical up front. I think they're the best offensive line in the SEC. Maybe you can have the argument with Georgia, but I think they're the most physical unit on the line of scrimmage along the offensive line. Marcel's got to make better decisions. If he doesn't, this one will be close. But you got to come out hitting on all cylinders and just play your game. What's the status of Hill, the backer for Texas? I don't know. I guess we'll see that too. But, Joe, I got to be real with you. I'm leaning A&M heavy here. I like Texas. I do.
Yeah.
I think they got a lot of really good athletes, but their inability to run the football here, I think, is gonna hurt them, because I don't think that they're going to ultimately be able to keep up with Texas A&M.
Yeah, I feel like that this game is going to play out very similarly to the Georgia one. I think that we'll see, because Texas they're not a bad team. They have a lot of really good athletes. Sark is still a great play caller. Arch is still a improving quarterback who can make a lot of big plays. There is, I think, a likelihood that this thing is close at halftime. I think that there's a likelihood that we see Colin Simmons make a big play. I think that there's a likelihood that we see, on the flip side of things, that we see Texas A&M make plenty of big plays through the run game, through the air. And it's a one-score game at halftime. And once the juice starts to really hit for A&M, and Texas has to start chasing by throwing the ball too much like they did in the Georgia game, that's when this game starts to get out of hand. We didn't really touch on this. The one weakness that has at times been hidden, and it showed up for the Georgia game and for the Mississippi State game, they have a great front seven, but their secondary is not good. Texas's secondary is not good.
We literally talked about this last week.
It's very susceptible to giving up big plays, especially to speedy receivers. And I think that this is just the big tipping point for this game. I do not think that they're going to be able to slow down Craver and Concepcion and Bethel Roman. I think that we're going to see them pop off. We're going to see all of those guys have big plays, and that is when the third quarter, when A&M starts to pull away.
Brother, that was my second point here. I don't like that you and I are agreeing so much. I really don't like it.
Dude, that's a really good point. We've agreed. One of these teams that we're really in on, Ohio State, Texas, or probably Georgia, is effed. So just get ready for that.
Somebody's getting clipped. So that's what I'm saying. Somebody's getting clipped here. Joe, this secondary is 105th in the country in passing yards allowed. Oh, God. Brother, I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be rude. This ain't the one. This is not, because, like you said, they have struggled with speed out wide, like elite speed. Good Lord, you're about to have some now. And the way that they use their tight ends, they've had issues in tight end leaks. You know, you talking about Oklahoma getting back in the game a little bit. I think about how they were able to hit the middle of the field. Good Lord, Joe, this secondary is really bad. And as bad as we've talked about the run game, as much as we've talked about the run game, Joe, we previewed this in the preseason.
Yeah.
When you lose that many dudes in your DB room, it was always going to be an issue. Always. Listen, the paper speaks. Papers don't play the game. I'm having a hard time looking at this one and not saying A&M. Maybe that it's on the road. Maybe Texas finds a way to run the football and they keep it away. The only thing that A&M, this is how I feel about it to wrap this segment up for my thoughts.
Okay.
A&M's got to beat themselves.
What? Right. That you got to see a meltdown on the level of what happening. That is like the real truth.
If South Carolina happens again, you're getting clipped.
But I don't think it's gonna. That's the thing. That this is not an overlook spot.
Well, here's the problem. South Carolina's secondary, which listen, South Carolina's in the mid-30s in all of the defensive statistics. Like, they're going to have a lot of dudes that get drafted this year. Like Kilgore and all those dudes. They're Cisse, Dylan Stewart, still one of the – yeah, it's Cisse, the far left or far right boundary. Yep. You got Dylan Stewart that's still out there. And, Joe, they scored 28 points in 7 minutes. Let me repeat what I just said. They scored 28 points in 7 minutes. So when they're on, they're on. But what happened? They had 3 brutal turnovers, a scoop and score. Joe, I still see the fat guy roll jiggles, okay, when he scooped and scored. They got to beat themselves. Every game this year for A&M, you've been beating yourself when you – at LSU, you had 2 interceptions. Mm-hmm. South Carolina, you had 3 turnovers and a half. So the only way that you've been getting beat is because you're not locked in and focused at all times.
I agree.
Okay. I don't like that we're agreeing.
I know, dude. I know. This is – someone's going to lose embarrassingly if we're agreeing this much.
Maybe it's the next – no, it ain't the next game. This is my lock.
Oh, you super jinxed it. What do you do?
No, this is my super lock.
Okay.
This is my super lock of the week.